Hello, hello. Welcome to Jim Lanahan and Friends. You are listening to Jerry Dixon sing Map of New York from If Then. Our guest told me he loves If Then, so I am playing this for him. Jerry Dixon's voice is complete butter. I can't get enough of it. Hello, hello.
Hi, what's going on?
I'm playing If Then for you.
I appreciate that.
Map,
Hey.
Map of New York. It makes me cry every time I see it done on stage. If Then, that
Mhm.
song makes me cry because I
Yeah,
love New York so much, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
I love that whole soundtrack. It's just so like I went to go see the live show and it was one thing, but then when I listened to the soundtrack without the staging, it's like a completely different show.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, between you and me, I thought the staging was a little confusing. I was like, who am I seeing? Which character is she? You know, it's the whole
Yeah,
sliding
that
doors
was a very
thing.
involved. That show was a huge undertaking. It was like they
Hard to
could have done a
do.
lot of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sliding doors movie, easier, you know, but on
Uh-huh,
stage,
uh-huh.
really difficult. So,
Yeah, yeah.
how you doing today, Dan?
I'm good. I'm good. I kind of had a lazy day today, actually. And a lot of my friends have been having a lazy day today. I think it's just this cycle that people don't have their routines anymore. So you stick yourself in your own routine, but then you kind of get tired of it, and you have these days of just like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, I agree. I had no energy all day today. I kept having to like
Yeah,
force myself to get shit done for work, you know?
yeah.
So, which is ultra depressing because work is depressing these days. So, you know, it is what it is. But, all right, let's jump into it. So, thanks so much for doing Jim Lanahan and Friends. Oh, the people love it,
Hey.
Dan. Oh my God, they can't stop applauding. So, Jim Lanahan and Friends is the same 10 questions. Everybody gets the same ones. And then there's no right
Uh-oh.
or wrong answers. We'll just chit chat and see where it goes
All
from
right.
there. Um,
Great.
and it occurs to me we have a lot to dig in on, a lot. And I have actually some pictures to show too during this. So
Bum bum.
one of them, you're going to die. You're not going to believe that I have photographic evidence that this happened. So we will
Oh
dig in.
God.
Question number one is super easy. What's your name? By the way, do you love a sound effect? What's your
I do.
name and where are you from and where do you live now?
My name is Dan Domenech, and I am from Farmingdale, New York, and now I live in Queens, Astoria.
I love it. I love it. You live where I used to live, by the way. Like I
Oh,
used to
nice.
live up on that corner of that avenue that begins with a D. I don't want to give away your neighborhood, but I used to live up there
Hmm.
myself. So you're back in New York. Let's talk about the ship because I think it's very interesting and
Hmm.
you know, a crazy story. So you were stuck. You were doing a contract on a ship,
Yeah,
and COVID happened, and the government
yeah,
said no one's allowed back in off the ships, and you were stuck
yeah.
on the ship for how many days?
For 60 days.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that was wild. That was wild.
I mean, it's wild, right? So, how did you cope 60 days on the ship? How'd you keep busy? How'd you keep positive? And eventually you got some help from a representative, right, to get off.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't, the beginning wasn't too bad because the gym was still open and the buffet was still open. We had all this food because we were expecting 5,000 people on the ship that were never there. So we were kind of living the life, but then when it turned into having to follow these rules of self-isolating and then the masks and then the social distancing and all of a sudden, the no more entertainment, it was that little light at the end of the tunnel went away. But we had representatives from North Carolina helping us out, Senator Tim Scott, um, oh gosh, I can't remember all the names now. We had like this laundry list of like Congress people, senators, people from the Department of Justice, the White House. They were, everyone knew about this.
Yeah. You were
Yeah, it
on The
was
View
nuts.
talking about it. I remember
Yeah, I
that.
was on The View.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So all the Americans got off, is that right? Eventually?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They kind of condensed everybody onto one ship, and then they got us all off in one shot. The Americans, all
Hmm.
North Americans, because we had Canadians with us too.
Oh my God, crazy. So who was left on board, and like who's on those ships now, or did everyone get sent home?
I think everyone's home now, as far as I know.
Yep.
I know that there's people on the ships because they require something called minimum manning, and so it's the minimum number of people that you need to keep a cruise ship running. So there's people out there that are still working, but
Crazy.
as far as I know, they've gotten the majority of everyone back to
Good.
their countries.
Good, good, good. Yeah, there are so many folks, I mean, as you know, working on ships. A lot of the crew members are Filipino, and I knew
Mhm.
that there was a little trouble getting them back to the Philippines. So I'm glad to hear most everyone's off. Question number 2, describe yourself in 5 words or less.
5 words or less.
Yeah.
Uh, Weird,
Weird.
fun, motivated, realistic, and sometimes blunt.
That's hilarious. How do you, so, for people that don't know you immediately, which I think is stupid because I think you're incredible. So, you have
Oh,
done,
there's one of my cast members right there.
oh, I love that. I love that
Mary,
for you.
yeah.
You've
Uh,
done, not to exaggerate, 708 Broadway shows, and a ton of regional, and a ton of, the contracts. And then you were for a minute, you were here in LA, and you were doing movies. And you've done some big shit, Dan. Like, you reopened Rock of Ages. When Rock of Ages, no, I'm just bragging on you because I've known you since you're little, but also I'm bragging on you. So when Rock of Ages, everybody closed, and then they had a cast reopen it. Guess who was starring in it? This man right here. So you've done some pretty big things. So of all the 5 words you said, what do you think is the secret to your success? What's made you keep going in a really hard entertainment industry?
um, I found the things that work and the things that don't work. Um,
Mm,
Motivation, you got to self motivate because a lot of the stuff that you got to do to book these jobs, you don't get paid for. All the rehearsing at home and all the learning of the sides. Um, and making the practice of singing and performing part of your everyday life, part of like your routine. If you wake up in the morning, you have the same morning routine, you sing the same songs, and you work on your voice every single day, you're
mhm.
going to see a difference.
Yeah.
And then also when it comes to auditioning, learning learning like where the sweet spot is because there's going in and not giving enough, and then there's going in and giving way too much.
Mm,
There's a definite sweet spot, and then also knowing how much how much to put yourself out there because there definitely is. You can go in there and you can get motor mouth, and everyone will look at you like you're a crazy person.
ah,
It's like you want to go in and be entertaining, but you don't want to be annoying because these people have to spend hours and hours in a theater with you.
yeah,
So it's not just about your talent; it's about your personality. It's about your reputation. Reputation's a big one.
yeah,
There's so many facets to it.
yeah. And I was going to say, at this point, you probably have casting directors and directors who pull for you, who just request for you to be in the room, like, oh, we want to hear Dan sing for this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. So, um, so the next question I usually ask is, how did we meet? But instead, I'm going to say, I love how much you love it. I'm going to say we met when you were a teenager, and you were doing theater on Long Island. I was in grad school. I'm just a little bit older than you, and I was doing theater on Long Island, and you were like this posse of incredibly talented kids. I don't know where they came from. Like, I listen, as one of the most talented kids from my hometown upstate, there weren't that many talented kids. Like, I had friends that weren't. So anyway, you were hanging out with all these kids, and then you all some went to big fancy schools, some went right to New York. You all ended up in various national tours, and you just started working, which is amazing. So here's the question. Do you remember a party at my apartment in Queens
There's a stripper in my apartment. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Okay, I mean, because it was the most amazing thing. So the theme of the party was dress up like your favorite Broadway character, and I think it was my birthday. And
Judas.
my best friend at the time, Tommy Johnson, like organized this whole thing, and there was like choreography and singing. It was just a big Broadway
Oh,
fest,
Tom.
and some of our friends came and
There it
you
is.
and look at
Look at
you.
me. I think I'm so cool.
What I love about you here, though, is you're serving up a guy liner,
Yeah.
and I think you're in like a camo pant. So, were you a Jesus Christ Superstar guy? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah. We were doing Jesus Christ Superstar at Cap, and that was my costume.
Also, our friend
And that's like some rolling.
our friend Lisa, who's here in a cross-dressing Marius moment. So Lisa giving full drag.
Oh
And
Lord.
yeah, I have another one I'll show you quickly just because it's a blast from the past. There's some other girls we know from
Oh my
Broadway.
gosh. Yeah.
Hilarious,
Meredith.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Meredith still has that stomach, bitch. Okay, but here's the thing. Meredith's probably gonna see this later. Here I am with the stripper in my apartment. So when this stripper came out, I just kept, because I couldn't believe that Tommy had gotten a stripper. I just kept screaming, "There's a stripper in my apartment!" Right? So to this day,
And that became our greeting.
I mean, it's hilarious, right? It's hilarious.
Every time I see you, that's what we yell at each other.
Yeah, just scream at each other. I remember that stripper gave me a candle that was shaped like yeah, and
Yep.
he wanted me to do things to that candle in front of my friends. I was not comfortable. I had to wait until you all had left the apartment to do those things
God.
with that candle.
That was so much fun.
It was ridiculous. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. So much fun. All right, so the next question. So if money was no answer, like no like object, what would you be doing today? Or would you still be doing this?
No, at this point I'd be producing my own shows.
Mm.
Yeah. But the money is the biggest issue because especially when it comes to musical theater, a Broadway show is going to cost you like $8 to $14 million, and that usually comes from many, many different people putting money into this big pot, unless you have like one billionaire that is on your side.
That's right.
And same thing with film. It's just the funding. The funding is the hardest thing. But at this point in my career, I've gotten to know so many really talented people, so many people on the crew side, and so many great actors that getting everyone together is not a problem. The problem is when they're like, "So how much does this pay?" And you're like, no, there's no money. They're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Call me when there's money."
Yeah. Do you have don't spill the beans, because ideas should be confidential. But do you have a property in mind that you want to develop? Because
I have a folder full of full of stuff. Yeah.
I love it. I do too. Like ever since, because I started working in the Broadway production offices in my 20s, and I always had like 7 ideas, and I would always try to pitch them to my bosses. But the name of the game is safety. Unfortunately, if it's not a big brand and they don't put a star in it, they're afraid they can't sell it, right?
No, which I think I don't agree with that. Well, I think that's like partially true, but there's also when you have a really good show, a good show is a good show.
I agree.
Doesn't matter who's in it. Doesn't matter who's directing. If the show's good, it's going to be great. It's going to sell tickets.
I agree. Yeah. I wish there was a little more willingness for risk on Broadway these days, because I think there's a lot of I used to go to readings all the time that I was like, this show deserves to get produced. So
yeah, I think there will be, because coming back, the budgets I'm imagining are going to be much, much smaller. So hopefully they will be taking bigger risks on new shows and shows that require like a more of a bare bones approach to this whole thing, just to save that dollar.
I agree. I also think when we come back, we're going to be at diminished capacities, which all the producers are balking at. But if we have fewer people in those seats, we can socially distance and we can go see cheaper shows. So let's do them smartly and not have to spend $14 million.
Yeah.
What do I know? I've only produced for 20 years. Okay. Question number 6. I skipped a question, but it's fine. Past or present, I love this question. Who would be most surprised to learn that you have or maybe had a crush on
Oh God. Who would be surprised to know that I had a crush on? I see. The thing is, I never hid when I had a crush on somebody.
them?
Who would be surprised that I had a crush on them now? Oh God, past or present? I really don't know. I don't know.
Do you ever get crushes
Um,
on your like leading ladies?
I used to when I was younger, but once you start doing this for a living, it's a very professional atmosphere, and you have to think about the safety of everybody there,
Yeah.
and you really want them. If you're leading, if the person you're playing against isn't comfortable, you're gonna see it on stage. Like, because you do all these shows and you see these leads that don't get along, or you're in them and you know they don't get along, and you see it translate to their performance, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna make that mistake.
Yeah.
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 Um, who do I got a crush on? That's a good question. Right now, I don't know.
Do you have someone? It's hilarious.
From the past, you, Jim.
I always get crushes on people. Like lately, I get talent crushes on people, right? So,
Yeah.
like, like everyone in my personal life has made a decade-long joke about me and Norm Lewis secretly being married
Oh,
but it's
that's
not
funny.
just because Norm is, oh my God, Norm Lewis in the 2000s was like, you could light a match. He was so hot, but
Yeah.
the talent and the generosity and the
Mm-hmm.
character, and the
Mm-hmm.
reputation. So for me, it's always like bigger picture stuff. I get crushes on people that are like not conventionally cute because
Mm-hmm.
I just want to like hang out with them all the time. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the next question is, for what reason might you find yourself on the cover of a tabloid?
Oh. Hmm. Maybe because I pulled a prank that went a little too far.
Hilarious.
Like, I wanted to take a live chicken and stick it in one of my co-stars' dressing rooms during Rock of Ages. And I was like, let me ask permission first because this one might get me in trouble. And they were like, oh, you have to worry about the costumes.
Oh my
Mm,
God.
nah. But yeah, probably for playing a prank on someone that was a
That's
little bit too
amazing.
far.
That's hilarious. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
We should talk quickly about Nick Cordero. Were you in it with him? Was it that cast?
yeah, yeah. We did the tour together.
Yeah, yeah. Really sad, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I,
It came out of nowhere, which was weird. It was all of a sudden we all got put in a group thread, and it was like, what's going on? They're like, he's sick. He's in the hospital. We're like, huh? All right. And then at that point, you think about your friend, and you're like, oh, he'll get out of this. It'll be fine. And everyone was pulling for him. Everyone was, throwing all the support his way. And then just see it getting worse and worse and worse. You still thought he was going to get better. Like him not being here anymore was never a question in anybody's mind. So when it happened, there was like some website that released it that shouldn't have released it as early as they did. And then all of a sudden, all the text messages were flying around. I got text messages from friends in LA, old castmates. People were leaving the group thread. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And no one had an answer. And then, like a half an hour later, we got confirmation from one of his best friends, and it was like, oh shit,
hmm.
yeah,
There's it's so incredibly sad, but
yeah,
I think knowing him like that much, and you know him that much, but I know how incredibly generous he was, and I think he would
hmm,
want us to be talking about it though, because he would want us to know this can happen to anybody. He was
hmm,
a healthy 41, I think, year old man, and
yeah,
it took him out. It took his leg before it took him out. I mean, it's
hmm,
incredible. And
yeah,
also how his wife was so generous with the details about it. It provided
yeah,
so many teaching moments and talking moments for those of us that
hmm,
really needed it, quite
yeah,
frankly, because if it wasn't for Nick, there'd be a lot of people in our community who are not talking about how scary this is and wouldn't be putting on their
yeah,
goddamn masks. And, so
hmm, yeah,
yeah. Well, it just sucks. I just hate it so much. So,
yeah.
um, thanks for that story. I know it's hard to talk about. Question number 8. So speaking of COVID, we're all staying at home right now. New York is
Hmm.
opening up a little bit.
Hmm.
LA shutting back down. So when you go back to normal and you are planning your big like first night out, dinner, drinks, the whole thing, where do you go and what do you order?
Oh gosh, let's see. Where do I go and what do I order? I'll probably go to Houston's and get a French dip and a
Mm,
martini.
yummy.
Yeah, yeah. Their
That's
martinis are really
delicious.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a dirty martini.
super
I'm gonna
dirty.
go on a date. Like a proper date.
Ah,
Like get my hair cut, get dressed.
are you like dating on apps right now? Like are you Zoom? I
Oh
have
yeah.
friends that are Zoom dating. It's just weird.
Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
love it.
great. Actually, I met someone really great.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, is it like turning
yeah.
into a thing? You don't have to talk about it. Is it a thing
It's
though? 'Cause-
turning into a thing. It's
oh
turning
my
into a
gosh.
thing.
Wait,
Yeah.
so are you going to meet this person IRL, as the kids say?
Oh, we've met.
Oh, good, 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 good. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we were talking for a long time though. Before I didn't tell her we met. We met when I was stuck on the ship, but I didn't tell her I was stuck on a ship. I was like, we were in quarantine, and I was like, oh man, I need to talk to human beings. So I jumped on the dating app,
Yeah,
and we matched. And it turns out we matched 6 months ago before that, but then we had just kind of like it just kind of like fizzled, and then we just kept talking, and I was like, wow, you're cool. It's like, yeah, you're cool too. And then I told her like a month later, I was like, yeah, so I was kind of stuck on a ship that whole time.
oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome though. Like, how
yeah.
was it a little more intense? Like, when you wait that long to meet somebody, the anticipation must be so high when you finally
Um,
see them in real life. It's like, you
She
know,
offered to bring me some coffee when I was quarantining back at my friend's place in Harlem, and I was like, "Oh, you're awesome. You're awesome." That's what I do. I was like, "You're a human being. I like this."
oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Good.
yeah.
Yay.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I think I'm gonna be in this apartment forever by myself. That's just how I feel
Uh-huh.
about things, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh, but that's awesome. You give us
Uh,
hope.
yeah, there's hope.
What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best one.
Yeah.
It's so versatile.
Yeah. It's like aloha, right? It can mean anything.
Yeah,
Good,
it could mean
bad.
anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. By the way, I'm obsessed with Barrett, who is providing so much commentary below. I just have to give her props. I think she's really hilarious. Yeah,
Queen.
I love it. When's the last time you dropped a good F bomb?
Oh, every day. It's just part of my vernacular. I know what I like. Usually, I put it away when I have to do like interviews or if I have to like sound professional. But in my everyday life, mm, it's all over the place.
It's hilarious. I love it. I love it.
Uh, fuck
Uh,
yeah.
question number 10. What is the last text you sent and who did you send it to?
Um, I don't. It was probably a GIF. I don't know if I go to check it, will I disconnect from the live?
I think so. You have to kind of
Yeah.
remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what I said, but my GIF game is pretty strong, so it's probably a GIF. I know I just recently sent a GIF of Eeyore, and then I think that was it. Because that's how we were all feeling today.
Yeah.
Just slow
I agree.
and tired.
I agree. So
Yeah.
we're kind of nearing the end, but I have to ask you, one of the things I love about you is that when you were in Heather's, you amassed a following of younger
That
people.
was nuts.
Like
Yeah.
I have never seen. There is an army. It's the Dan Army, and they love you. I'm assuming there's a lot of girls and young gays in that army, you know. So how is that? Like, speaking of dropping F-bombs, because I feel like I would constantly be like, okay, Daddy Jim's gonna say the C word right now, get ready,
Yeah.
you know?
I didn't say it a lot when I was doing my lives back in the day, but back when all that started, because I know that they were all like young. But once I started doing more live streams, every once in a while it would creep out and they would get a kick out of it. Because in reality, I mean, they got the internet. They hear it all the time. Let's just like be real. So, but yeah, that was really, really cool. And to see the trajectory of like the whole thing growing. And then there was a time where I left my apartment here in Astoria, and it became hard to do lives, twice a week and keep a schedule going. And the whole thing just like goes away, and then you start doing them again, and we're like, you're back, and they bring back all the old jokes, and then like it's like a roller coaster like this. It's like you really do have to nurture what you're putting out there, but it also wasn't viable. I wasn't making money doing that, and I had to go make money. It became a thing, and it was I miss it. I miss how like engaging it was, but I had to start focusing on career stuff that was going to pay the rent.
It's very hard to monetize Instagram. That's for sure. Yeah.
It is.
What is the reference? There's a lot of comments below. What is the reference to a loaf? What is that?
That was like I was doing a live at my friend's apartment over in Hell's Kitchen, because she was in like a ton of Broadway shows, and I thought it would be cool for the kids to ask her a bunch of questions. And there was like this thing that we wrote on the chalkboard wall behind us that was like Fran 2017 or whenever that was. And it was all about this like yeast starter that we made the week before. And all the kids were asking like, what does that mean? And we told them the story, and they started making bread puns. And like we were playing along. And then a week later, I just posted a picture of bread just because I just reminded me of like the jokes. And the comment section blew up, and I was like, oh, so this is what we're doing now. And that's when I learned that when you have a following like that, you can't really make any hard turns at that point. They're the ones that are driving the bus.
Yeah.
And you're more of a passenger now at that point.
Yeah.
So if you try to stop something from happening, or if you try to make a complete 90-degree turn, they're not going to let you.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you. They're the ones in charge. So you just hang on for the ride, enjoy it, and keep fanning those flames.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I enjoy that they're calling you Loaf Daddy down below. So that's so good. Loaf Daddy. That's funny for me. Okay, last question. Tell me your favorite thing about Dan.
My favorite thing about Dan. My favorite thing.
Yeah. Favorite thing about yourself.
I don't know. That's hard. That's a hard one, because you never want to come across as like, well, I love myself, but I like to think I'm a pretty nice guy. I like to see other people happy and smiling and having a good time, and I try to bring that out. It gets hard when you're doing this for a living. You come across so many strong personalities and people that don't want you to be that way. There are people out there that don't want you to be happy. It's insane. But that's I think constantly finding that joy, like I keep going back to it. That's like my baseline. That makes me feel good. Yeah. It lets me know that my parents did something. It was like they did something to instill that in me, because that's like where I like to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's one of my favorite things about you is that I don't see you a lot in real life. I see you online. And but so when I saw you right after you had opened Rock of Ages, our friend Stacy was in New York, and we went to dinner. And I remember like I hadn't seen you for a few years. I think the last time I saw you before that, you were in Rent tour. So it was a long time. So it was like 7 years later or something. And
yeah.
I just remember being like, because you never know how people change when they grow up, and you never know. I mean, and you and I both know this. You never know how people change when they get the first Broadway contract. That changes people. And you are absolutely the same person. You are the sweetest, kindest. You are super smart. You are, I mean, I remember standing on the sidewalk and my friend Liz was obsessed with you. And I was like, that is so kind, because you stopped, you looked her directly in the eyes, you thanked her for all the compliments. So I just want
Yeah.
to verify everything you just said. You are absolutely kind. It's why they love you.
Uh,
It's why all those
I love
kids
that.
love you. You know.
It helps having you all around, especially those first 6 months when all the Long Island people were coming. Every week there was someone new, and that really kept me going because that was a marathon, that one. Towards the end, I was so burnt out.
I don't know how you sang that 8 times a week. It's crazy. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, yeah. I started to reevaluate things those last few months. I was like, wait a minute, let's rethink this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're a star. And thanks so much for doing this. You did it!
Of course.
Oh my God. Applause. I would
Yes.
really any opportunity to use a sound effect, you know. So all right, doll. Your Instagram is oddly empty. It's down to one picture right now.
Yeah, I
Is
started
that
cleaning it out.
you're cleaning it up? So is where can they
Yeah.
find you? Is that the main platform?
Yeah, it's still gonna be Instagram. It's just when everything was going down on the ship and everything started going on around the world and it seemed like I was like, I didn't want to post anything. It felt like the timing felt weird. And I was like, you know what? Now's a good time to like do a nice healthy reset because I don't know what's going to happen coming out of this whole thing. So I just kind of cleared everything out. And then, I was following like the maximum number of followers and I've been trying to get that down. But apparently if you unfollow too many people at once, you get shadow banned.
Yeah.
So,
Insane.
trying to like figure that out because a lot of those people too, a lot of those accounts are now inactive or they've like don't come on anymore. They've all because those kids that we were all engaging with each other, they're all in like college now, partying and having incredible
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I know they all grow up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So everybody should go follow you on Instagram if they're not already. And thanks for doing this, Dan. And I
Of
can't wait to
course.
see you in real life. Mwah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, doll.
All right. Bye.